Hello everyone, today on the channel we are going to be installing the ARM Motorsports catless downpipes on my 2013 B7 Alpina. So the engine we're looking at here is the N63 TU motor, which is BMW's 4.4 liter twin turbo V8. The time this car was produced, that V8 put out 445 horsepower and 480 foot-pounds of torque. This car, being an Alpina, was then sent to the Alpina factory where they sprinkled our magical fairy dust. They also had bigger turbos, different heads, different pistons, and some tuning to make it all work together. And in the end, it rolled off with 540 horsepower and 538 foot-pounds of torque. Tools needed for this install, nothing too crazy. The only thing I didn't have lying around were actually a set of external torques, so I had to grab those. Other than that, I already had an O2 sensor socket laying around. So on top of those, I just needed the standard metric sockets, extensions, things like that. Nothing too fancy. Half of this install is dealing with the heat shields. You can see I've been working on the one on the top, which is held on mostly with external torques. And I'm also working on ones that travel down with the downpipes to the bottom of the car, where there's also a few more external torques holding the heat shields on. So now that I have the heat shields off, I just need to get the rear O2 sensors out and then go after all the top side mounting hardware here. They were all metric Allen cap head screws, and then the V-band clamps were a normal metric bolt. A few fun random Alpina facts. They import about 500 of these a year to be sold in the US. The cars have 21-inch rims all around, which are super cheap to get tires for, let me tell you. They have a 0 to 60 time of 4.2 seconds if you're an extremely skilled driver, which means I'll never see that. I mean, I'm okay, but extremely skilled, maybe not so much. I also have a top speed of 194 miles an hour, which, if anyone important is listening, like my mom, my grandma, or my wife, I'll never see that either. Also, a quick shout out to my buddy Lance, who pointed out my disgusting hoodie in the last video I made when I was putting the intake on this car. I feel like Lance doesn't appreciate a good lucky hoodie. This is the hoodie that I've had since high school, and it's probably what I'll be wearing when I have my tragic accidental death someday. Now that the inordinate amount of bolts were loose on the top side and everything moves around and wiggles, I was able to make my way down to the bottom. Was this install difficult? No. Tedious? Absolutely. You'll have to excuse the hot garbage camera work here. It's an unfortunate side effect of having to work off of floor jacks and jack stands. On the underside of the car here, there's 2 studs holding on each downpipe, along with this one other external Torx up here holding the heat shield on that I had to get off. There's also this bracket in the back, also held on with external Torx, that I had to take loose to gain some wiggle room on the exhaust to get the pipes out and the new ones in. I decided to leave this struggle in the video and not edit it out because I thought it just kind of showed the typical frustration that sometimes we go through when we're trying to do these things on our own, in our own garages, in the cold, whatever you might be facing. It took me quite a while to get these things to wiggle out of there. They were pretty snug between the engine and the firewall. You can see I'm twisting and turning, and they're kind of in each other's way. Eventually I get one out, and once I get the one out, the other one comes out just fine. But I had to get them in just the right spot. It took me a little bit to figure it out. I may or may not have just spiked a wrench on the floor off camera right there. Here you can see the factory downpipes next to the catless downpipes. I really like to finish on the catless downpipes. I almost wish you could see these things better when they're installed, but because I installed most of the heat shielding and everything back in the end, you really don't see them, which, it's kind of a bummer. They're nice looking pieces. So here you can see me doing the spin move I had to do to get these downpipes back into where they needed to fit. I had to spin each one almost 180 degrees as I lowered them in to get them to go in their spot. After that, I tightened the V-band clamps on each one to get them closer where they needed to be, and then went back underneath the car and got everything to fit into the factory exhaust and buttoned everything back together. So here's a few shots of everything going back together. You can see I used a check engine light delete kit on the rear O2 sensors to hopefully avoid a check engine light. I do plan on putting a JB4 on this car here in the near future, but until then, hopefully these will help avoid a check engine light. Other than that, I was able to get the engine cover back on, and overall I'm pretty happy with the look. Now, without any further ado, the thing we all want, the side-by-side exhaust. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you liked the video.